Hello, everyone. It's Holly Signorelli, CPA and Wealth Manager, otherwise known as the Money Therapist. And this is Money with a Twist of Sublime. Why? Because I want you to love money again. I want you to feel good about money. I am so tired of people blocking money, feeling guilty about money. Maybe your parents told you that money was the root of all evil, or if you had a lot of money, then you must be greedy. Well, I want you to eliminate all of those belief systems now, because you can have money and you can save it, you can be financially savvy, you can give it, and you can spend it, and you can have a wonderful, wonderful life if you're not afraid about money. So today's episode is my friend Shawn McBride, and he's an attorney, but don't get scared. We're not going to be boring today. We're not going to, put you to sleep or anything. We are here to talk about small biz, because small biz is huge for me. It is the absolute foundation of this country. So we're going to talk about that and how you can make sure that your company stays afloat and that you do not become one of those statistics of the 80% of small biz that go out of business. So, Shawn, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm an attorney. I'm also a CPA like yourself.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Started my world in the accounting world and decided I wanted to do something a little different. I wanted to work in the business world, and I've really picked up a passion for working with business owners and helping them find a way to grow their business and make it something bigger. And we spend a lot of time with businesses, getting them started, getting them going in the right direction, making sure they have the right systems in place, and they can try to avoid being that statistic.
Yeah, exactly. And you are also a very out-of-the-box attorney and CPA, just like me.
Yeah, I don't enjoy just going to the office every day, sitting there and having the client call in. I like to be interactive. I spend a lot of time on education. I like to educate people. That's a theme that runs throughout my business. I'm either educating my clients on how to do something or do something better, or I'm out speaking to a room full of people, or, recently I became an author, so now we're finding different ways of getting these messages out to people.
So tell us about your book.
Book's called Business Blunders, and it profiles 10 mistakes we see businesses make. And it's really a checklist, is the simplest way to put it. If you take the book, you read through it. If you're running a business, you're probably doing 8, 9 of the 10 things pretty well.
Yeah.
It's that 9th or 10th thing that you weren't thinking about that's your real exposure point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a way to just make sure you're doing everything right and cover your bases.
I like your book a lot because it's so simple. Like with these kind of subjects, people don't want to read a big book.
Right.
They'll read a big novel. But that's why I made mine simple too. Mine was about money, bad decisions that people make about money and the emotions behind it. Because same thing, it's not that everybody's doing all of these, but if you read the book, you're going to be using one of these emotions to make very bad decisions about money. So it's like direct and to the point and not a bunch of fluff.
Yeah, I think you read some of these books and they make a point and then they give you 5 examples of making the same point.
Yeah.
And you end up spending a lot of your time reading through examples that just repeat themselves. So I just lay the ideas out there in my book. I know you do the same in yours. Get the idea across. Get people moving on. Everybody's busy. Get the idea across. If you need to do a deeper dive on something, there's other resources available, but this at least kind of gets you thinking the right way and get you moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I think that's why a lot of people don't actually finish books too. They're like sitting on the coffee table and they've got halfway through it, and I know that happens to me sometimes. I get bored halfway through because I'm like, come on, just tell me what you want to tell me.
Right, you don't want to miss that next nugget, right? Because you're reading everything, but you keep reading the same thing over and over again, and you're like, all right, never mind, next book.
Well, here are this is from an article at Forbes, a very recent article. So it was, sometimes you look these things up and it's like 3 or 4 years old. But it's according to this, there's 28, almost 29 million small businesses in the United States. And this I didn't know. It makes up 99% of businesses. So we think of big corporations, being bigger than all of the small businesses combined. But the small businesses are America. So for me, when I started to write this book, it was after the 2008 issue, because as a financial advisor, I've been through like 3 big crashes like that. But something different happened, and because I work with just entrepreneurs, okay? And entrepreneurs, there was more and more of them after 2008 because a lot of people lost their jobs. And a lot of people that were small business were still making really good money. So it was interesting. Like my business actually expanded during that time frame because new entrepreneurs were around. But what was insane was when the economy started to turn around, people were making really good money, hundreds of thousands of dollars net, and they were spending every single dime of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people making $500,000, and they would owe tax, and they would still have debt. So something insane happened, especially with business owners, and that this fear, like that we're never going to have money again. And what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely some mentality to that. It's been interesting. You talk some about how important the small businesses are, and I think corporate America is reinforcing it because a lot of the big companies are just bringing people in on demand.
Right.
There are a lot of independent contractors out there, so that creates a lot of opportunity for small businesses to fuel that. But then, a lot of the small business owners just they're not thinking ahead, right?
Right.
Planning, and you're going to have ups and downs in a business inevitably,
Sure.
And so you want to have some stockpile. You want to pull some financial resources off the table. Because we don't know when the next 2008 is going to happen. Right,
exactly. And a lot of people aren't saving like they're supposed to. I think the last statistic I heard was that, of Generation X, which is me. Are you Generation X?
I'm an XY line.
You're an XY, okay. But 42% don't have savings. So, and they're in their 40s.
Yeah, it's shocking,
50s.
Isn't it?
It's actually scary. So when I was seeing people that were younger, or in their 30s with these businesses making money and not saving and having debt and owing taxes and just spending every dime, I really started thinking, wow, if small business people continue to do this, this could be kind of catastrophic. But that being said, I am the eternal optimist. So what I want to talk about is, how can we help small biz survive? Because there is only one reason that there's a whole list of reasons, but at the end of the day, it always comes back to money.
Yes.
Yes. They run out of money. They don't have enough money. They try to finance it themselves. A lot of times people try to finance it themselves so they don't have a loan. But what they don't know is that while they're watching their savings be depleted, they start to become anxious.
Yes.
And that affects their ability to work. Have you experienced that?
Yeah, we see that in a lot of business owners, and that is one of the biggest struggles. When people come to us with a new business or a new idea, it's how do we pull the money together? And sometimes they're looking to raise money from third parties, but that becomes expensive and cumbersome. Mm-hmm. If they're pulling from their savings, that can cause stress. Some people just don't quite make it. They have a business plan, they start developing it, and there's a lot of people out there that say a lot of businesses finish, 90% of the way there. Those ones that fail,
mm-hmm.
they may have been 90% to success. I mean, they may have been, 2 or 3 weeks away from, the big thing happening.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, they just ran out a little bit. So you've really got to have that long-term plan. You've got to understand how you're going to deploy the money and how you're going to work through it.
And the biggest thing that I see on the loan process is if you're going to have a business, it's okay to have a loan. When we talk about debt, we're typically talking about credit card debt, things that are meaningless. I mean, I understand a loan is debt, but there's two different kinds of debt, because if one of them is launching your business and allowing you to succeed in the first year, then you should be able to take those profits in year 2 or even year 3 and pay that loan off in a relatively short time.
Right.
But what people don't get enough of a loan, though, because they overestimate their income.
Yes.
And they underestimate their expenses.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And you've got to view the business as investing in yourself. I mean, that is fundamentally what you're doing. You are building something to deliver a product, service, whatever your fundamental business is. You're building something of value. So it's not the same as pulling money out of there to go buy a new boat or buy a new car. If you're pulling money out of your savings, or you're getting a loan or incurring a liability to build this business, you're really building an asset.
Yeah, you just gave me an epiphany. I never thought about it, but your business is an appreciable asset. And because you rent cars, right? Or at least I lease cars because they depreciate. Why would I want to buy one, right?
Right.
But your business, it should be long-term.
It should be a long-term investment. And, one of the challenges we work with business owners, too, is once you're a few years out of the box, you want to make that business saleable.
Right.
And for a lot of people, a lot of business owners, that is a retirement asset.
Right.
They build a business to a certain size, and you get the business built the right way. You can actually call a business broker in there. They'll go find a buyer, and you get a lump sum of cash when you retire. So,
yeah, exactly.
So it is not your traditional savings. It's not the mainstream thing you hear about in the media, put money in your 401k or whatever, but it is an alternate way of saving money.
Exactly. I love the way that you just said that. And, another thing that happens in that same category is people don't get enough of a loan because of what I said. They think they're going to make more, or they've anticipated that they're going to be profitable immediately or in 3 months or 6 months. And you almost want to look at it like, what if I didn't make a profit the whole year? What if I didn't make any sales? Which that's not going to happen. But if you want to have the right amount of loan, you don't have to spend all that money. So it's like just, look forward 12 months. How much money would I need so I'm comfortable? Because when you're in a fear-based feeling that the money's running out, you can't get a loan then. The banks will not loan you money because now you're 6 months into it and you've already run out of money. So now you're a liability instead of a new promising business. So that's why it's so important.
A lot of truth to that, and I think you need to really look at the long game. You definitely need to be conservative on your estimates on expenses. You want to make sure you have enough in there because you're going to have some unexpected expenses. I can tell you as a business owner,
always.
Something pops up and you need to buy something you didn't think you were going to have to buy. So you're going to have some extra expenses in there, even if you carefully budget. You want to make sure you have enough runway to make sure you get the business off the ground.
Yeah, and I had an experience a long time ago. Believe it or not, everyone, I'm human. And it was a real estate deal, and it was crazy because even when I did the budget, I tried to, double the expenses and cut the income in half, and it was still off, because it was a different category. It wasn't the, I'm used to doing finance and stuff, so doing real estate as a bed and breakfast was it wasn't the real estate that was the problem, it was the bed and breakfast. And so it was like trying to put a budget together for something. So I would tell people, when you go into business, always do something that you really, really love, because then you don't feel like you're working.
Absolutely.
Even if you are working hard, it doesn't feel like it because you love what you're doing. And be careful, if you're really successful, of diving into something that is not your arena, because that's kind of where the ego comes in, and you think, oh, I'm successful over here, I'll be great over here. And it doesn't mean you can't step out of your zone, but you have to do a lot more
diligence.
Yeah.
And you want to be, you want something you're passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
If it's something different than what you've done traditionally in your career or whatever, you want to have a passion for it.
Yeah.
Because I tell you, if you don't have a passion for it, you're going to run out of energy.
Oh, yeah, that's what happened to me then. So I learned a valuable lesson. I think those kind of things, when you make mistakes, it's just about taking the lesson and being a better person for it, helping other people the best that you can to not make those kind of mistakes.
Absolutely. All of those mini failures, all those past experiences, those are lessons. Those are things you can build on. And your business, we don't want you to fail the thing completely, but I can guarantee you when you start this business, you're going to have some unexpected things come up. Some challenges are going to come up. You need to just take them in stride and keep moving forward. And that's where the passion comes in.
Exactly. And we're going to take a little break here. This is Money with a Twist of Sublime. And then Shawn and I are going to talk about partnerships and how you can make sure that you don't hate your partner within a year, because it's a very common problem. Stay tuned.
This is Jeff Lazarus, author of Dogtology, Live, Bark, Believe. Dogtology is about man's fanatical devotion to dog, about the belief in dog, arguably one of the most popular beliefs on earth. Dogtology is available right now on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble Select Stores, and BarnesandNoble.com, Books A Million, independent bookstores, and several airports around the country.
My name is Vicki Ratliff. Let me help you create your will in the comfort of your home. I help you take charge of your life while you're able to make estate choices. Save time by having me come visit you at your preferred location. No child care issues, no lost work time, no hassles. My clients have been very happy that they can take care of the wills, powers of attorney, and other estate planning documents from the comfort of their own home. I help my clients get their estate planning documents in order, as well as helping them with any probate matters by making house calls. Call me at 972-824-0778 or check out my website at www.VickiRatliffAttorney.com. VICKIRATLIFF like Frank. www.VickiRatliffAttorney.com.
Okay, we're back with Money with a Twist of Sublime. And we're talking about small biz and how important it is for this country, and how many, 28, almost 29 million businesses in America. That's awesome. I love it. So now we're going to talk about partnerships. And this doesn't necessarily mean that you are in a partnership with someone. It could be that you're collaborating with them. And it also does include partnerships because partnerships are like a marriage, people, okay? And they're just as hard to get out of. If they might be worse.
Yeah.
What do you think as an attorney?
Well, I give a lot of thought to that analogy because we use that a lot when we're talking to people. The only difference between a business partnership and a marriage is there's not a lot of stigma about leaving a business partnership, right? A lot of people are concerned about leaving a marriage because you got to go through the court filings. You got to tell everybody, I said I was going to be with this person forever. Now we're good. Business partners come and go as part of a normal course of business, right? Even a really good set of business partners might only work together for 5, 10, 15 years, depending on their business plan.
And things change for them, go in different directions.
I know some people have been partners for a long time. They've been in business together 30, 40 years, but there are a lot of business partners. They have a business partner now, and they're going to have a different partner 5 or 10 years from now, and a different partner 5 or 10 years. So you have kind of this transient nature of the partnership, which makes it a lot less stable and secure.
Yeah. So, I always tell my clients when they're doing a partnership, first of all, most partnerships, I don't know about with your practice, are their friends, really good friends. They grew up together. They love each other. It's going to be awesome. We're going to make millions of dollars. Or they're family members, maybe not immediate family, but like cousins or, maybe in-laws. And because of that, they do not think anything can go wrong. And they tend to not do the contracts properly in the beginning. Or they might set up a partnership or an LLC of some kind, but they don't go to the effort that they should to make sure that everybody's on the same page.
Yep. Yeah, when I speak about partnerships, one of the things I talk about is risk points. And one of the risk points I often focus on is disagreement.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because when partners come to my office, I say, what if you guys disagree about the future of the business? What if one of you wants to go this direction, one of you wants to go that direction? Oh, no, we'll never disagree.
We'll never do that, yeah.
And, invariably, some percentage of those partners end up back in your office 2 or 3 years later.
Well, I've had people 1 year later come in and they're screaming at each other. So first everybody's in love and everybody's happy, and then within a year they hate each other's guts and they're both walking away, and usually there's and it's not a financial issue the same way it is for just a person running out of money. Yep. It's how the money is allocated. And just like a marriage, it's always the little things. Because the big things usually were covered.
It's the little things, and it's not thinking through things completely.
Yeah.
And that's what we try to get ahead of when we work with our clients. Clients will approach us before they form a partnership. We're doing a lot of things to unlock the value, protect the value of the business, make sure it's there. Yeah. But it's those little things they didn't talk about. They didn't talk about what if a third-party offer comes in and somebody suddenly wants to buy the business? And this could happen quickly. Occasionally, somebody may want to buy that business a year or two out, especially if it's successful out of the box. They don't talk about these scenarios, so you want to work through a lot of these scenarios.
Yeah.
And when I'm speaking, I often ask the audience, raise your hand if you've ever been in a disagreement with somebody close with you. And invariably, most of the audience raises their hand. So you have this in your life. You've had disagreements with coworkers or family members in the past. Why do you think you're never going to have a disagreement with your business partner?
Yeah.
So we want to put some structure around it, really try to get ahead of the issues before they happen, and then have a plan in case you do have some major fundamental disagreement about the future of the business.
Yeah, and a lot of things, too, it's like you go do the contracts, but since most of us don't even know how to read a contract anyway, I think you should also, literally have a face-to-face conversation, and you're like, what is your role? Especially in real estate. In real estate, I see this every year because there's always somebody financing it, and then the other person is doing the sweat equity. And for anybody that doesn't know what that means that they're working instead of putting money in. Well, the person that's working always feels like they're getting jilted because they're working all the time, and the other person in their mind isn't working. And this is about having a conversation and saying, what is your role? Okay, my role is I'm going to put $500,000 into this. Your role is you're going to be working full time. So I always say I think that those people should get paid something because they're working, and that it should just be part of the percentages maybe.
I love your thought here on having a discussion. In fact, that's what we do with a lot of partnerships that come to our office. We say, okay, go sit down, get out a piece of white paper, stick the paper up on the wall, and figure out who's doing what. Divide the roles, divide the responsibilities, and then figure out how you're going to divide the profits or the losses or whatever. Just work through it on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Don't even worry about the contract yet.
Yeah, the contract you'll take care of.
Yeah,
they have to understand each person's roles and not be confused about it.
Once everybody understands that, the lawyers can easily put together the contract.
Yeah.
But the first step is understanding what everybody's doing.
And the other thing is that people need to have an exit plan. I think you were kind of touched on that a little bit ago, because people think, and just like in a marriage, like if you get a prenup, that it's a negative connotation. But here's my view, and this is 26 years of working with thousands of individuals and business owners. When you do a prenup or you do have an exit plan for a partnership, then both parties know what is going to happen if you get divorced in your partnership, right? So then you actually don't worry. This is a very, very important subject. If you don't have an exit plan and you don't know what's going to happen, then what happens is in your mind when you have your first fight, because people are different in business than personal, right? Mm-hmm. So who you thought you knew personally, they're going to react to a situation in business very differently than how they would at home. So when that happens, and it always will, because there's always some kind of glip or something that comes up, then your mind will go to, oh my God, this is going to go belly up, and then what's going to happen to me? And then it turns into an emotional mess.
Yeah, there gets to be a lot of emotions in these partnerships. I've had partners come to me, and there was apparently a short-run reality TV show called Who the Bleep Did I Marry?
Yeah. And
one of my clients called me up, and they were analogizing. They're like, I don't know who my partner is.
Yeah.
They're completely different. So we hear it. But yeah, you want to have that plan in place. The exit plan, we call it a buy-sell a lot of times in the business planning context. But I can tell you this. Sitting down and building that exit plan, building some type of mechanism that the partners disagree, where the business gets sold or where the partners buys out the other, or somehow the money's protected, changes the conversation completely if there's a disagreement than if you didn't do the planning. Because if you don't do the planning, what's your alternative? You can end up at a courthouse. And
absolutely.
That goes
and
very
hating
bad.
each other, fighting, and then things get worse.
You could destroy the value of the business completely. We've seen businesses go to zero because you spend all your money on the lawyers. You stop operating the business. You're not paying attention to the customers. You're fighting with your partner. We just took a business that was valuable, that we could have divided. One partner could have bought out the other. One of them could have walked away with a nice check. The other would still have the business. They both get zero.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's a horrible situation. We want to avoid that.
Yeah, so this is really important for everybody out there. Even if you're not setting up a partnership, if you're collaborating with somebody on something, you need to really talk to each other straight up and make sure that you're on the same page. And what's going to happen if this thing, doesn't go down? And it's so true. It's like if you already know what's going to happen, if you were to break up the partnership and then something bad happens, you probably won't get emotional about it because, again, you know the outcome. So then you'll actually take your energy and you'll put it into the solution versus now going to court and it turning into something big. And this is, again, something I deal with every single year in my practice. And it's really heartbreaking for me, like watching it, like that, hey, wow, they had this really great deal. They didn't have to go out of business just because of emotions. Oh,
it's painful, and you end up bringing in the emotions of your advisors. It sounds like you get a little emotional about it too, and I do too. I hate seeing businesses have trouble.
Yeah. Especially
stuff that could have been avoided, because this is stuff that if you spent a little bit of time on, a little bit of money on up front, we could avoid entire situations. I hate when a partner. I had a couple weeks ago, a partner approached me and said, I've been in this business, 3 partners. Now suddenly my partners are freezing me out. They're giving me a very low buyout offer. I don't get any money from this partnership, and I've invested, I think he said, 5 years of his life in there.
Yeah.
I mean, what a terrible story. This is what we want to avoid. We want people to get paid for their time, get paid for their effort. And there's very simple things we can do early on to make sure that happens.
I have a quick question, and I hope I'm not getting too technical for anybody out there, but one of the things that I've done in my practice over the years is when I'll have several clients. They have their own companies, and then they'll collaborate together, 2 or 3 of them. And so I'll have them build a conduit. A conduit is a company that's kind of a flow-through. So, for example, if these 3 people want to work together and they each have their own company, then you can kind of have like what you might think of as, I'm putting this in layman's terms, but a parent company, the money comes into there, a few expenses get paid, and then each of the 3 people that are collaborating together, it would go into like their own company. And then that way there's no fighting about money, like with cars and meals and entertainment and stuff like that, because each person pays for that out of their own company.
I like that. There's a lot of,
that, or
yes,
something better?
I recommend that in a lot of ways. I mean, it gives you a lot of clarity.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially, what we do see a lot of people collaborate, and they start building businesses. That's the nature of the economy we're in. We talked earlier about how flexible the economy is and how corporate America is just reaching in on an as-demand basis. And, of course, we see a lot of these smaller businesses saying, well, we can add more value if we work together, if we build something together.
Mm-hmm.
So when they do that, if it's something that's of substantial nature, I mean, if it's a one-off project, I wouldn't worry about it as much. But if they're going to be working together for a period of time on a longer project, often it's a great idea to form a separate company to run that project, have individual income and expenses through that company, and then have an allocation provision for allocating the profits among the partners. It's great for accounting and making sure that everything's clear there. You avoid a lot of arguments where they happen.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's also good for liability protection because, if you have 2 or 3 people working together on a project and you don't form an entity, well, then what are you? And the law basically says if you have multiple owners carrying on a business for profit and you don't do anything special, you don't form a LLC or corporation, you're a general partnership.
Right.
And what's a general partnership? The bad thing about general partnerships is unlimited liability for each of the owners. So if anything happens in that business, each of those owners has unlimited liability.
Yeah.
And we don't want that.
That is so important nowadays too. I mean, I hate to say it, but we're in Sue Happy America, people. I mean, you really have to protect yourself. You can't scrimp on legal stuff at the beginning of your business, during your business, contracts. I can't even tell you how great it's been to have somebody, create contracts that a lot of times people want to create themselves, but man, it's just like spot on and protects you. So important for all your hard work in your business.
Yeah, you want to protect the hard work. We see people use internet contracts. Then a problem happens. We go back and read the internet contract. It's got unfortunate clauses in it. And I had a client of mine who sold their business with an internet contract, and then the buyer didn't pay.
Oh, wow.
And the contract didn't have the types of things we would have liked to have had in order to force the buyer to either give the business back or give up the money. And my client ended up getting nothing. The buyer ended up in jail, et cetera, et cetera. So it was an ugly situation. But if we had put certain clauses in the agreement, we could have wrestled back the business, and my client could have taken it back. So.
Oh, excellent. Excellent information. I love it. This is so important. Again, small biz is the foundation of this country. I love it. I want you guys to survive. Go to my website, themoneytherapist.com. And Shawn, tell us how people can get in touch with you. 2
different ways to get a hold of me. You have www.mcbrideattorneys.com. That is the legal side of my business. And my public speaking side of my business is www.r, the letter R, Shawn, SHAWN, McBrideLive.com.
Yeah, and I love that he does the speaking engagements again because it's easy to talk to him. Usually when you talk to an attorney, they're just kind of dry. And and it looks like Shawn and I may be doing a little collaboration ourselves on Entrepreneur Bootcamp Live, which I will give you more information when I have it. But I'm really excited about creating a forum where people can actually afford a CPA and an attorney at the same time by us talking to a group as a whole and help you set up your foundation strong the first time, the right way.
And I am looking forward to it. And Holly and I are doing exactly what we talked about. We've got the whiteboard out, and we're working on our ideas, and we're looking forward to helping some people.
That's right. So stay tuned for more Money with a Twist of Sublime, and have a wonderful day.